Hello and welcome to part 6 of the Ableton Live sound design tutorials. We're working on Basslines. My name's Tom Cosm, and for this particular tutorial I'm kind of going through all the different types of basslines we can do. I thought we'd do a kind of fun, funky disco house one. This will be quite a quick one, but I want to get that nice kind of arpeggiated effect, real kind of a groovy, housey disco kind of bassline. So as usual, I'm going to, I've got 3 channels here, which is a kick, snare and a hi-hat, just so we've got a beat. Very standard, can't really go wrong with that, nice and generic. And we'll just insert a new clip, and we're going to call this bassline as usual. So that's a new MIDI clip, and we'll open this up, and let's add in a MIDI clip, Command-Shift-M, or of course you can go create MIDI clip if you like. So this is our MIDI clip here. We haven't got a synth loaded up yet. Let's do that. Let's use the analog. We haven't used the analog in a while. Now the analog is a subtractive synthesizer with 2 oscillators, which comes with Ableton. I usually use operator, but for this one we'll use analog. It's nice and fun. So let's just start off by adding in some notes now. Where are we? Go down to G as usual. Let's just put in 16th notes like we usually do. 1, 2, 3, all the way across. Pushing Command D to duplicate the note. Nothing amazing as yet. Now the first thing you'll notice is that there's some release time on the amplitude or the volume of that sound. So if I was to enable MIDI mode here and just play it on my keyboard, you can hear there's a bit of release time. That comes by default on analog. We don't want that. So if we go into the amplitude area over here, this middle part turns into our envelope, and we can see we've got a release time of 626 milliseconds. We want to get rid of that. So let's just drag this down all the way down. The release time, of course, meaning how long the note plays for once it's finished playing that note. So actually let's go in here, let's select all, and let's drag these all shorter. Very good. And if we bring up the release time, it's a bit chaotic. We don't want that for now. So we're playing better close down my tweet deck. And we're playing a saw wave here, standard saw wave. Nothing much exciting happening. Now I'm going to turn this into a square wave here. I like the square waves in the analog, a nice square wave. That's a wee bit too low. Oh, actually no, that'll do. Let's go back and let's lengthen these notes out a bit, like this. And I'm simply going to select every second and third note of the beat. I'm going to hold down Shift and push up to make an octave above. And let's do it with these ones as well. Let's do it with all of them. So the second and third notes of each beat. So I've got a kind of an arpeggiated octave thing going on. So you can see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. Now of course it would help if we had a filter on here with some envelope. Now if we bring the frequency down of the filter, I've used the low pass filter. Let's use a low pass 24 for this one. I'm bringing the frequency down. And let's add some envelope amount. Remember the envelope is this line here. This is a little line which we can use to tell the synth to do something to the sound every time the note is played. And this particular thing, we're going to pull up the envelope under the frequency mod. So that means as we bring this up, this line is going to do things with this frequency. So if we bring it all the way up, you'll notice that because we've got the line, this point here is up as high as it can be. It's going to snap the frequency from a high value down to a low value using this curve. It's a little less complex than the operator envelope system, but we don't need something complex for now. And let's just bring the decay time back. Very good. Let's bring up a little bit of resonance on this filter. Alright, starting to sound good already. I'm going to bring the frequency down so when the envelope gets to its bottom amount, it's very cut off. Very good. Now let's roll with that. Now I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to drag this out like this as well. So we have 4 loops of this 1-bar loop. Now remember we changed this decay before. It had quite a nice sound to it as it opened up. So what we could do is let's modulate this. We're not going to automate it. Automate it would mean if we went in and we changed this line and drew patterns. Let's actually modulate it within the clip. So I'm going to double click the clip here, and you see because we just played with it last, the analog is selected and the this is the filter 1 envelope decay is selected. And remember, this is relative to what the value currently is set at. It's not like the automation line. The automation line is an exact value. You can see the milliseconds pop up there as I change it. But if we are modulating it, this is actually a percentage of how much of this to play. So if this is at 100%, if this is all the way, if this is at 15 seconds and we go in here and this is at 100%, as we bring this down, it's 100% of 15 seconds and so on and so on. Let's bring it right down. Like so. And of course, if this was halfway down, then that would be roughly 33% of halfway down. So if it's so if it's 100% of halfway down, we're going to get exactly 406 milliseconds delay. But we don't want it that high, we want it to be down here, and let's bring this back up to 15 seconds just for fun. Like so. Now this is good, but we're only working with a 1-bar loop here, so let's just click on this set of 4 loops and consolidate this. You can push Command J, or you can right click and you can choose Consolidate here. That converts these 4 clips into one long clip, so you see we've got one nice long clip here now. And this is great because that means we can do some modulation with this percentage. So let's just have it getting more intense and then coming back down again. So over 4 bars it's going to get more intense and come back down. Not bad, let's just drag this up a bit. Very good. Now just for fun, I'm going to even extend this even further. So I'm going to select all here and I'm going to drag these out. Let's make it quite a long phrase for this one. Let's drag it out to here. So we have 16 bars of a loop. Drag the loop point out. You'll notice the baseline hasn't actually dragged out. That's because after we consolidated it, we didn't turn loop on here. So one thing we can do again is we can consolidate this again, J, and then we can turn loop on, and then we can stretch it out like that. That's good. I'm going to consolidate this again, so we've got a 16-bar loop. You see how it took all the automation points that I've got, the modulation points, and actually gave us 4 copies of it now in this big 16-bar loop. You notice I got the end point wrong from where the start point was, so I'm just going to double click at the end of these ones just to make sure it matches up. And we'll just bring that one up a little bit, if you get it perfect. Now the reason I did this is we can go into the notes and we can start doing some fun stuff now with the melody. So let's select these notes here. I'm just going to drag this up a bit so we can see a bit better. Let's select this lot of notes here and let's take it up 2 semitones. So I'm just going to move these notes around so we've got a nice little melody thing going on. And let's, just for fun, let's bring this down. We'll go down to the relative major 7 of the G minor chord, which is an E flat major 7. And hopefully this will sound nice and melodic. Whoops, we missed that note there. And we'll do another lot here. And we'll make these ones go up, leading back to the G, like so. Left a note missing there, that's supposed to be there, And then what I'm just going to do here is this last set of 4 bars, I'm just going to select all those notes, delete them, and we'll just copy them from here. We'll just go back to the original phrasing that we had. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to drag that across so we're on the G, like so. Very good. Let's just listen with the kick. Now, like always, of course, the kick is starting to drown out with the bass because we've got them playing at the same time. Let's just chuck in a compressor, turn on the side chaining like we usually do, take the audio input from the kick and bring the threshold down so the kick is making the bass duck out of the way. Now I think that modulation gets a little bit too intense, so I'm going to go back into the envelope mode. Remember we modulated the analog and the filter envelope decay, so let's select all that and let's just click and drag it down. Make it a little bit less intense. One thing I might do is I might go in here, look at all the notes and select them all, and let's just drag them a little bit short. Very cool. Now quickly I'm just going to add in some pads because I think that would sound very cool. So let's just name this pads just so we can get a bit of a feeling. It's nice to have something to complement what we're doing. I'll just chuck in an operator here and let's just put in these chords. So we've got a G minor here. So there's our G. Here's our minor third, which is a B flat, and here's our fifth, which is a D. And let's solo this. We'll make this a nice saw wave. We'll give it a filter, make it a high pass, and we'll just have it up very high. And what we'll do is we'll turn the LFO on. We'll get rid of the LFO affecting the pitches of the levels of the oscillators over here, and we'll turn it on to the filter. And we'll take the retrigger off. So that means that we're going to have an LFO which is going to sweep around this high pass for us. Wee bit loud. Give it some reverb. Sounding good, and let's just copy that compressor over from the bass line over onto those pads so we get a pumping effect. Very cool. Now let's do a little trick I used a few videos ago where because these are all 16th notes, we can drag this MIDI clip into the groove pool and then drag the groove back on top of the MIDI clip. Now that gives us a groove which is exactly the same as our MIDI clip, but if we go into the bass and turn this to triplets, it'll actually give us a bit of swing, a bit of shuffle, a really quick way of doing it. So let's have a listen now. And by changing this timing percentage, we can tell it how much of that groove we want to apply. So let's bring this down until we find a nice spot. Sounding good, but let's go into this bass line. Let's start playing around. Now what would sound good here? Let's try putting a saw wave, see what that sounds like. Not bad. What if we turn the other oscillator on? Not bad, and detune them slightly, so each oscillator is slightly out of tune, which will give it a kind of a chorusy, kind of phased effect. I quite like that. And why don't we do, just to be crazy, let's put a chorus over it and make it really strong. We're kind of doubling up the sound sources here to give a really full sound. So I'm just dragging the chorus. Let's just see what it sounds like with the preset on. It's quite cool. Ooh, And remember we had a chord change here to a major 7, so I'm just going to Control E here, cut these chords, and Control E here, just cutting this little loop section out here. And in order to make this a major 7, all we have to do is just add the E flat down at the bottom, because we've already got the 3 notes, other notes, the major 3rd, the 5th, and the major 7. I'm quite liking how that's sounding. I might play with this filter a little bit more, give it a little bit more of a punch. Let's bring the frequency down a bit. Great. Now, as usual, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this instrument and this chorus effect. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go group. So we now have an instrument rack with that in it. That's because we can now rename this chain to high, and we can chuck in another operator to do the bass, the sub bass. So we'll rename this, call it sub. So if we have a listen here, if we just solo the sub, not bad. Remember, we have to go to the high and we have to add in an EQ to get rid of the bass, just because we've got that sub taking it over now. So let's drag in the EQ 8 after the chorus, get this pole, turn it into a high pass. Now they should play nicely together. Let's get the sub. Well, see, as I'm listening to that sub, I can hear, remember we've got them octaves apart. So what we could do with the sub is we could actually bring the sub down an octave, because the most powerful part of this bass line is those 2 notes that are in the mid, off the beat. So if we go in here, it's these 2 notes here, these 2 notes here, and at the moment the sub's playing them quite high. So we might be able to get away with bringing that sub down an octave by changing the coarse value of this oscillator here down 1. I'm liking it. I'm just going to go back to that high, maybe give it a bit more resonance. I might actually, it's sounding good, but the start of that bass note isn't very snappy. I think we should add even another synth in here. Let's add in another operator. And we'll, oops, I dragged it over the top, so it's replaced it. Don't want to do that. Undo. Let's drag this operator down into our chains, and we'll just call this snap. Now let's work on making this sound quite snappy. We'll just solo this for a sec. Let's make this a saw wave. I'm using an operator here. Let's turn the filter on, and we'll give it a lot of envelope here. Bring the frequency down and bring the decay down. And we can EQ this because we don't need any bass in this at all. So drag in an EQ, again, click on the first pole, turn it into a high pass. I'm not sure if I like that modulation on the decay of the analog there. It's getting a little bit too intense. Thought it was a good idea at the start, and it did sound, but let's select this all. Let's bring it down really low. I'm not sure I'm liking the snap yet. What about if we spread that snap out so it's kind of standing out? bit too much resonance here now. Let's bring the decay, bring the filter, we have to modulate this. I'm just going to select all this modulation, delete it, we don't need it. So let's just bring the decay down. What about if we give quite a bit of resonance to the snap on the saw? It's quite good. Very good. Let's bring the threshold right down and see if we get real pumping. Very cool. I'm just going to select this all and duplicate it just so we can play with a little bit of a different rhythm here. Get rid of the pads for now, we don't need those. Let's select all this again, delete, we'll go in and we'll add in our bass notes like usual. Make 16th, oh, that's too long. Make 16th notes again, duplicate them out. Just make one bar. And we'll bring the length down. Let's take it off an octave. Maybe not. And let's make these notes short. And of course, if we wanted to, we could put really crazy things. A flanger always sounds good on these things. I'm going to put the flanger, I'll put it before the compressor. Let's put an arpeggiator on these pads just for fun. I'm at my end of lesson tangent. Put the arpeggiator on. So I've just dragged an arpeggiator effect, which of course is going to take those three notes and actually arpeggiate them at a rate that we define. Let's say 16th notes. And let's give it, oh, this is how short the notes are. Let's just automate the reverb here, the dry wet value. We'll just select this and we'll turn it off. See what this sounds like. Let's change the wave shape to a square. Bring it down an octave. Got to give it a bit of a swing, 16 swing. Lots of fun to be had. I'll just delete that arpeggiator there. So that's a quick lesson. That's a nice fun way to do that kind of bass line. I use it quite a lot in my tunes. I like that kind of effect. It's really driving. You can do really big long build-ups, long progressions with that kind of stuff. Change that back to a saw. Okay, I'm going to save this project file. Feel free to download it. Hope that helped. Stay tuned for the next one. Cheers. TomCosm.com.